What's up, you guys? It's another candle again. I just want to point out, because I've noticed that I get this nice little slick, and that's not a hairstyle that I'm actually trying to do. Whenever I'm at work, I'm driving a golf cart around to get from place to place, and a lot of times I get real sweaty because I'm working outside. And when I get in my golf cart, if the wind starts blowing me in the face and the sweat goes up my forehead into my hair, and next thing you know, I've got a nice little do going on. So yeah, that's a work hairdo. That has nothing to do with me trying to style my hair. It's doing that on its own. But what I was wanting to talk about today is about faith. And it's more or less not me going to try to give some kind of a lesson or speech here on faith, but more or less, I guess, pointing out how we need to recognize how we should have faith. Guys, all of us come through times in our life where we get desperate, we feel drugged down, we feel like we're beaten, just having a rough time in general. I mean, I've been going through a rough time right now. I just started this new job. I have to have gas to get back and forth to work. I don't get paid until the 14th. So I've got a whole week and a day before I get paid, and we're hemorrhaging money. But for that being said, I go through times during moments like this where I'll feel depressed some days, and then right afterwards I'll have a day like today where I get reminded about how I should have faith in God during my circumstance. And I really should. Not just because the Bible says so or anything like that. I should because my life says so. When I think about all the different things that I've been through and how God has pulled me through all kinds of different circumstances and then put me in a place where I am today, and I feel so incredibly blessed to be where I am in life today. We can start with the humble beginnings, and the majority of my young life was very good. I was raised in a biblical home with Christian values. We went to church. Me and my brother played outside a lot. I was homeschooled after, I think, like one semester in first grade. And so in a lot of ways I could say that my parents raised us right. But my parents it's hard for me to remember exactly when, but sometime around 11 or 12 years old, I think, my parents split up and ended up getting a divorce. Now, a lot of times you see kids that come from split households that they struggle a lot. And for a time, we did struggle. And a lot of people will point out, well, there's all kinds of issues that come out of that. There'll be trauma. There'll be things that you do with your family that'll reflect how things were after the divorce and stuff like that. And when I look at it, I'm like, no, not really. Me and my brother, in a lot of ways, have been spared from most all of those issues. We've grown up just fine. Yeah, I didn't have very well-off mom and dad who just forked over money whenever we wanted it for anything we want, but where a lot of people nowadays would say that that's a bad thing, I consider it a good thing. It means that even though I don't have a lot, I'm thankful for what I've got, because I wasn't incredibly spoiled as a kid. I can tell you one way I'm spoiled. I like food. You can tell whenever you see my belly sometimes. I'm not fat, but I'm a little overweight. More than I feel like I should be. But more importantly, it's better to focus on what happened a little bit later in life. Later on in life, me and my brother ended up being homeless. Different periods of time, and then at one point at the same time, homeless together. But man, for a good while, for quite a few months, I lived on the side of a hill in a hammock in between two trees with tarps as a roof over my head. I didn't hate it. I was accepting of my circumstances. I knew that for the most part it was my choices that got me there. It wasn't anybody else's fault. But still, things happen that are out of our control, even if we try to make good choices. But I came out from that and still ended up for a time being homeless, just in a vehicle homeless, which is definitely a step up. I mean, if you've been through the same situation, then you know being homeless in a vehicle is a lot better than being homeless in between two trees. Excuse me. We spent a lot of time being homeless there for a while. Me and my brother and Kayla, who is my wife right now. I say right now, but she, as far as I'm concerned, she's going to be my wife till I'm dead. But we lived in a van out in Sevierville. And my oldest brother, Brandon, helped me quite a bit during that time, because we were out there during winter. And so there was a few times him and his grandparents would let us sleep in their house if it was going to drop down really cold that night. But there was still a lot of nights that we slept in our van during the winter. I had a really big tarp I would throw over top of it to kind of help keep in some of the heat and to keep the wind chill off of the vehicle itself. And that helped a lot. But there was times that we didn't have food, and me and my brother would go to the nearby store and we would steal food. I don't feel great about having to go and steal food. I don't think anybody would, especially if you're not a thief. You know, you never were raised that way. You never habitually had a desire to be a thief or anything like that. But you just got so hungry that you went into a store and stole a can of refried beans and a couple of tortillas just so you could eat. There was times when me and my brother would go out to the Little Caesars, and, well, actually, if I remember right, that was only a few times, but me by myself, I would often go out to the Little Caesars, and I would wait till they throw their crusts away, and I would take those crusts and I'd find some ketchup or mustard or mayonnaise, and I'd put it on those crusts, and that's what I ate. When I look at that compared to where I am now, there's a major difference, but it's nothing that I did. That's the main thing I can point out, is it has nothing to do with me. I was trying to work through those circumstances just the same as I'm working through the circumstances I have now. The main difference is whenever you get down to your lowest point, there'll come a time whenever you stop struggling and you just accept where you're at. You're like, you know what, I'm not going to fight it anymore. This is where I am. And during those times, if you come to God, even if you were like me, I wasn't living for God at those times. I wasn't living for God until my son was like 2 years old. But he still helped me. And I think it's because, yes, he loves us. We are still his children. Even if we're not living for him, he still loves us. He doesn't want to see us suffer. He'll allow us to choose to suffer, but he doesn't want us to suffer. I think the reason is partially that, and partially the fact that he knew that if he just kept pulling on me and kept bringing me out of the holes that I would dig myself, or the holes that the situations in life would put me in, that eventually I would pay attention and I would realize what I was missing through all of that. And guys, that's definitely not the last of everything that I've gone through. All these just crazy things that we've gone through. We were homeless whenever my wife, at that time, we were just boyfriend and girlfriend. Whenever we conceived Jariah, we were still living out of that van in winter. And I was terrified about having a child and not having a home. Well, one day we went to my dad's, and I didn't want him to have us stay there. I wasn't going to even ask for that, but I asked him if we can at least sleep on his back porch. And then, whenever they got home, they woke us up and told us to come inside, and we stayed there for a little bit. We worked. We tried our best to save up money. And then all of a sudden, a trailer came available in this place that's called Buttercup Place for $400 a month. Mind you, this was before inflation. $400 a month is still pretty good. We just barely managed to be able to get up enough money to pay for the deposit and the first month's rent. And then we moved in. Whenever we first started there, we didn't even have beds. Like, I'm pretty sure we had blow-up mattresses. I can't remember exactly, but I mean, we were sleeping on something. And we didn't have chairs. We had a couple of like fold-out seats that we picked up a couple of weeks in. We ended up getting a cheap TV. We sat it on one of the fold-up chairs. Guys, it was a little bit rough. I mean, a lot of y'all think about it, you're like, well, you got internet and such like that. You can at least watch something like YouTube. Well, for a couple of months, we literally just bought DVDs and played them on the Xbox that we had, because we had an Xbox 360 at that time. And that was our entertainment for the time. And you know what's crazy is it was really hard to be able to find DVDs for a good price. But a store in our town ended up selling out. It was called Popcorn Video. It wasn't a store, it was a rental place, sorry. And pretty much all of their selection was on sale for like $1 to $3. So we got a whole bunch of different DVDs and stuff to be able to watch. It's not easy whenever you go from even just being homeless to living in a destitute situation like that. Like, yeah, you have a home, but you don't have anything for whenever you're off work and you're just sitting around the house. I didn't even have a Bible at the time that I could sit there and read. So, we didn't have anything to be able to entertain ourselves with during our off time. We've gone through many times, even after we got the place furnished and we're living more comfortably. We went through times where we could barely pay our bills. Sometimes that we would almost miss our rent and then somehow miraculously just have enough money to be able to pay the rent. We would have times where we wouldn't have food, or we wouldn't be able to get formula for our child, and something would happen and we would have it. The point of all of this that I'm trying to get across to you is that God absolutely takes care of you in your situations. And so it's one of the reasons why, even in my current situation right now, where we don't hardly have any money and we're struggling, I have faith in the situation because I know God's taken me through much more difficult things. What I'm going through right now is nothing compared to what I was going through 6 years ago, 7 years ago. It's not. It's nowhere close. But we catch ourselves at times, even whenever we have those crazy things that God has taken us through, we still catch ourselves doubting. And maybe we aren't even necessarily thinking like, well, God's not doing anything. Maybe you're just trying with your own ability to get through the situation, to secure yourself. In that particular moment, you still, in essence, are doubting God's ability to handle it. Sometimes you have to just step back and take your hands off of it. Sometimes God's trying to take the wheel and you're sitting here like, no, I'm trying, and God the whole time is just like, man, if you'll just let me take the wheel, I'll steer you the right direction. But you're fighting me. Even though you're not necessarily doing the wrong thing, maybe you're fighting him and you don't realize that. I'd like to inspire you guys to take a look at your own lives, all the things that God has pulled you through, and use those things, those parts of your story, to have faith about God's handling your situation that you're in right now. I kept mentioning this to my wife when it came to our daughter. Before we even conceived her, my wife was discouraged. She was saying, well, there's no way, it's not going to happen. We tried and tried and tried. And she was like, it's just not going to happen. Then it happened. Then as we were going to doctor's appointments and watching her development, her head was quite small. And it wasn't developing the way that she thought it was supposed to, I guess you could say. The doctors eventually told us it's kind of normal, but she was worried about it. And it makes sense why. And I kept trying to tell her, honey, you need to have faith. You had complications with Jariah and he came out just fine. And then further on down the road, she was born. She came 5 weeks early, as I've told you guys before, and we have trouble finding her the right formula right now because she's lactose intolerant. And a lot of times, if you have kids, take this as a warning. If your kids are lactose intolerant, it'll take you a good while to get the doctors to realize that they are. They'll put them through 3 or 4 different kinds of formula before they actually will take them off of formula that has cow's milk in it, even if it's powdered. So just keep that part in mind. But either way, she keeps worrying. Understandably, I do get it, but she keeps worrying about all these little things. And I hate it because sometimes I get a little irritated about it. And I have to realize that they are valid worries that she's having, but my irritation comes from the fact that we have to put our faith in God. He's got the situation. Even if something happens, and God forbid, something happens and Aya passes away tomorrow, I know where she's going to be. Is it going to hurt? Yes, absolutely. Is it going to be hard to move past? Yes, of course. But I have faith that I know where she's going to be. Jesus loves the birds in the sky. God takes care of them. He feeds them. He gives them housing. So how much more do we not think that God's going to take care of us and feed us and house us and clothe us? I hate to think that many of you that clicked on this video have probably already turned it off. I hate to think of how much people these days have such a small attention span that they can't listen to a 20-minute video of someone telling about their story and why they want to inspire you to have faith. But I already know that that's going to happen. I'm not complaining about it. I would hope that everybody that clicks onto this video watches it all the way through to get the message that I'm trying to put across. I hope you guys have faith. I hope you guys look at your own lives and you see where God has handled it and you have faith in your situation. If you have any issues you're going through, let us know. We will pray for you. If you don't want to say what it is, just put unspoken in the comments section. We'll still pray for you. God bless you guys. I hope y'all have a great day, and I'll see you later.